Fairfield. Welcome to the second season of Fairfield 2.0. I'm your host, Mike Ragogna, and I really appreciate everybody's support for the first season. We had 30 episodes, unbelievable for the first season. And like I said, now we've got a second season going, and for our first, since this is about Fairfield, introducing Fairfield to Fairfield, about Fairfield, and to the world, introducing us to the world, we have our mayor, Mr. Ed Malloy, Mayor Ed Malloy. I really appreciate your coming on this show, man.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on the show. I've really enjoyed watching it.
Thank you, thank you. I guess the first question I would ask would be, how are we doing? How's Fairfield doing these days?
Yeah, I think Fairfield is doing great. We focus on providing services and balancing budgets first and foremost, and we got that done by the end of our fiscal year on June 30th, and we're actually just beginning our next year, and I think things are in good shape. The community is moving ahead positively. In terms of what Fairfield, what city government has as a sphere of influence, again, we are providing services to citizens in those traditional ways, and we have challenges in certain areas that we are always trying to upgrade and renew. But as part of the overall community at large, I think that we're quite healthy from many different perspectives.
Nice. Have you seen? You've been mayor for a while now.
I'm in my 11th year. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Time flies. I don't think of it as that long, but it has been that long.
Time flies while you're having fun?
Yes, it does. It does. It has been a lot of fun. It's been my honor to do it.
I have to say, this is my getting here only 2.5 years ago. I feel like I've been introduced to a community that's incredibly integrated. Everybody knows each other. Of course, you walk down the street and everybody knows each other by their first name. But different groups that normally you wouldn't find in a town commingling or hanging out together. And I feel like that's the nature of Fairfield. There's something about this place which is awesome like that. What would you think that? What do you think that is? What would you say that is?
I think there's been greater and greater acceptance of our natural diversity. 3 decades ago, when the university attracted people from all over the country who wanted to be in Fairfield as part of the program for meditation, that was a little bit stark initially.
Yeah.
And I think longtime residents weren't sure how that was going to play out over time. Yeah. But time is exactly what it needed, and I think over time we found that it's played out quite well. And as I'll go back to that, there's an acceptance of the diversity, an acceptance of the diverse community that we are at this point in time. Does everyone like everything that goes on in the community? No, there's going to be attitudes and things about particular areas, but I think on a high percentage, overwhelmingly, people do appreciate and do accept that. What's helped that also is that in the last 10 years, people from the outside have looked at Fairfield and said, wow, this is extraordinary. If we could have that, or if we could duplicate it in our community, we would want to do it. What's the formula?
Nice.
The formula is honest human interaction. When people are working together for common goals, good things happen. And that's what I try to do, is to sort of decipher what it is, those directions that have some strength and momentum behind them, and really try and coalesce groups of people who will come, think together, own those ideas, and move them forward.
What are some of those directions? For instance, what have either you or the city council or just collectively, what have we been moving along? What have we been pushing?
Yeah, good question. 10 years ago, when the city did its first long-range strategic plan, and a strategic plan of vision and ideas and goals, the city has always had a comprehensive plan that takes a look at its zoning and its capital investments and where it needs to go, where it needs to look forward in terms of growth. But this was more of a strategic plan of ideas, of vision, of concepts, and we put that together. And for instance, one of the areas, any small community is always going to be concerned about its economic vitality.
Right, of course. Okay?
Yeah. So we've been fortunate in many areas. We have a very strong manufacturing sector. Our agricultural sector outside of the community also contributes greatly to the vitality of Fairfield. But we've also been fortunate to have this underpinning also of entrepreneurship that have created many, many hundreds of cottage-based businesses that have grown into institutional businesses.
And I can throw out there places like Bluefish,
Yes.
Sky Factory, even
Cambridge
recently
Investments
Boom, Boom Fitness. I mean, there are. It just seems like the entrepreneurial spirit is
Yes, it's
pretty strong.
there, and it's really matured to a great degree. So that, that we always want to support all of those different legs of the stool. We always want to support and encourage.
Yeah.
We thought to ourselves, Fairfield, though, is an intriguing place. And we think we have the capacity to develop a tourism-based industry.
Ah.
So we focused on that. Out of that came the Arts and Convention Center, bolstering the Art Walk, which had started 10 years ago as well. More community festivals like the Oktoberfest that's coming up, or All Things Italian. The Power Wagon Rally in its 25th year. So many different things. We thought, you know what? Fairfield maybe doesn't have one signature event, but we are a community of festivals and a community that really celebrates its diversity in so many different ways and in ways that appeal to everyone.
Right.
So I think that was one of the things that we saw and we put in our vision plan and we executed it. The other was the Go Green plan.
Right.
We saw that there were really a lot of great expertise and interest in this area of energy conservation and moving into renewable energy as a viable way to generate what we need, and now we're seeing that demonstrated around the community.
Right. The sustainable living thing is just escalating, and the more people, I'm really surprised by the amount of people that I've had casual conversation with, and in some way, either once removed or whatever, they know somebody or they are a part of something that's sustainable living oriented in this town.
Very true.
Very interesting too. And also, to your point earlier about people looking into Fairfield and seeing what we've got here. Yeah, I don't know if, many of our viewers might know, but I have a radio show that brings in, pop stars and country stars, jazz stars, all of that. And when they hear that, for instance, our radio station is a solar-powered station, and that would be solar-powered Crew FM, plug, that would, they end up like, they use that as their green credit. I've seen that appear on publicity releases later on, and people like Jason Mraz and just recently the Outlaws. It's an old group of There Goes Another One.
Yep.
I interviewed Henry Paul from that group just yesterday, and he at the very end he said, and by the way, thanks for contributing to renewable energies for the planet. And it's like, where did that come from? This is a Southern rock band too. I had no idea this was coming out. So yeah, so what's interesting is that I think Fairfield has some stuff that's been a bit of a magnet lately in the fields that you're talking about, and the arts, and of course the arts themselves. I mean, the artists that come through Cafe P, the Sondheim. At the end, isn't it universal? They all go, "Oh my gosh, where did you people come from? I can't believe the response we got. How into my music you were." We got a special town here.
Yeah, we do, and we can go any direction where we can collectively focus and get the most out of our community. Another example of that is that we are pursuing the designation of what's called an Iowa Blue Zone.
Okay.
And many people have heard about this. This stemmed from an initiative that Governor Branstad had put forward for the state, challenging Iowans to become the healthiest state in the nation over the next 5 years. And we rank 20th right now, so there's a lot of work ahead of us. The governor partnered with Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield and a nonprofit organization referred to as Blue Zones. Now, Blue Zones were written about by an author from National Geographic, where he studied cultures around the world that had extraordinary longevity in their populations and gleaned all of the different behavioral, lifestyle, diet elements to their cultures and have adapted them into a community program. So we became part of a statewide competition for cities to be designated. And on September 6th, Thursday afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m., we will have a site visit by an evaluation team that will meet with all of our community leaders and decide, are we ready to participate at this level and receive this designation?
Beautiful.
But what a great thing, because they're going to focus on changing diet and lifestyle. They're going to focus on weight loss. They're going to focus on longevity and measure it for our whole community, so we can watch how, through our own individual commitments and practice, we can change our lives.
Beautiful. Has Ken Daly heard anything about this?
Ken is quite involved. Yes, Ken is a leader in this. Yeah, yeah. He's an extraordinary man in that respect.
I remember at the rec center, at the MUM rec center, he had, if you were going to enter there to work out at all, he was going to have you get at that computer
That's right.
and register.
And register.
Great.
Yes.
Now we were talking about zones. Can we talk about the quiet zone for a second?
Sure.
I spoke about this with Mike Halley in the first season, but what is going on there? What's the latest update?
Okay. Well, the quiet zone is basically a permission that Burlington Northern Railroad will give our city based on safety at our crossings, so that their engineers, as they roll through town, will not blow their whistles. And what drove that is the fact that Burlington Northern, because of the good business climate that they've been in, they've increased their numbers of trains by 20 or 30%. Also, based on certain safety requirements, the decibel level of their horns has gone up over the last 20 years. It's a nuisance. Yeah. It's a nuisance in a downtown, and it's not a small task to get all of this done. But Fairfield had a plan approved. The money was raised both publicly and privately to initiate this, and we're in a construction phase right now. We expect the construction phase will be done sometime by the end of September. We will need some official sign-off and approvals by Burlington Northern. So I would say sometime in the fall, we will have all of that in place.
And that's going to include. I read in the newspaper recently that it's going to affect parking a little bit, and also it'll involve having concrete construction barriers and all that. But it's not going to be. But it isn't an oppressive thing. It's more like just a
it's not going to be without its inconveniences. I'm starting to realize now that I see it being constructed. I mean, I think overall net it's going to be a good thing. But
right.
Those couple of areas are one, 100 feet back from those few blocks, and it's really just 3 blocks that are affected: Court Street, Main Street, and B Street, I believe, where the parking would need to be restrictive. There is parking along the streets now, but we can't fit a car between that median strip that will be in the middle of the road and the curb, so there will be no parking back beyond that. The other thing is that, if you've ever been at a gate crossing where there's nothing going on, the gates are down and there's no whistle or train coming by, and it's someone that's working on the tracks or some fault of the gates that have come down, who hasn't driven around them from time to time? Very cautiously, when there's absolutely nothing either direction. But you won't be able to do that anymore, so you're just going to have to sit and wait for whatever's going on the tracks. Well, unless everybody's backing up beyond those. So there'll be some inconveniences, but I think net it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, and also you have, I'll throw this out there, doesn't it make sense that the properties that are along the train now, maybe it'll affect, maybe it'll increase the property values?
Yeah. I think it could only help.
Yeah.
It could only help, yes.
And over the years, I know that in the time that I've been here, it's always been an issue. I've moved around from place to place, and I always kind of look with a leery eye at anything that's close to the trains because of that. I'm a light sleeper, so it would be impossible for me to be there.
Yeah.
What else is up? What's getting discussed at the city council meetings, etc.?
Okay. Well, one of the things that we are going to go into the process of, and this is always something that's good for a community as an economic stimulus, is that we are going to be approving tax abatements for new residential construction. We've had a commercial and industrial program in place for many years, and we've had a residential program in the past, and we're reinstituting that to try and incentivize home building in Fairfield. Our housing stock is quite low. We know that there is housing demand. Anything that we can do to help incentivize that, we want to do. The way it would work is that someone has built a new home, up to 75% of that value would be, the taxes would be abated for a 3-year period of time.
Wow.
At 100%.
Wow.
So there's a decent savings there, and hopefully a decent incentive. We're talking with a number of developers right now who I think are fairly serious players, who are looking at projects that will either be condos, townhouses, or apartments So I expect that over the next year we'll see some of that development.
Right.
We still have subdivisions within the city that have open lots, and I think there's always the potential for new home development in those areas as well. And land on our perimeter, we are always friendly to annexation if it's voluntary and it's something that people want to be in the city for. So hopefully we'll see some growth in that area.
And of course, a lot of the what we're talking about, entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, this would definitely spur on some more, looking at the community and more investment in the community. Do you feel like what do you think? I don't want to. I'm not asking like for a prediction, but what are you looking at as far as what would you consider a healthy growth of Fairfield over the next couple of years?
I think over the next couple of years, I mean, a healthy growth would be say 200 to 300 new residents of the city, and that's not something that you can do very lightly. When you talk about jobs and housing for those numbers of people, but Fairfield has the infrastructure and the capacity to grow. I think we are an attractive community in many ways. There are a number of people who over the summer have bought properties in Fairfield. As I mentioned, we have these construction projects that are coming up. And I say that because I do see the capacity for housing increasing. And if that's the case, I think our population could grow.
Interesting. I mean, we're kind of left in the wake of the Oprah wave. Now, the Oprah wave, they were saying thousands and thousands of people are going to be moving here.
No way of knowing.
Buckle down.
If she was still on ABC or whatever major network she was on, that probably would have been the case.
Yeah.
But with the reach that she had with that show, it just didn't reach as many people as she did when she was on a major network. And it would have been great if it had. And I think there was a very strong sense of support for the people who did see that, and they really loved the community that they saw. And some people have moved here already, and others are still kicking the tires.
Exactly. Now, the community also would not have been able to handle that kind of an influx at that amount, that sheer amount that everybody was predicting at the time. Where were they going to go?
Yeah, it's never realistic. Although it did happen once. It did happen once in the early 1980s when probably about 1,000 people came at about one time, and the campus seemed to be the place where most of those people were housed and were incubating businesses. But as they grew and expanded over the decade, it became more sustainable. But we don't have that right now. The campus couldn't house that at this point, and people would pretty much be on their own.
Right. You'd have a lot of double and tripling up in houses. I have to ask you, I know you were in Maine.
Yes.
We discussed this earlier.
Yes.
Before we get there, though, I want to talk about Fairfield. What is your history with Fairfield for the 2 or 3 people that still don't know?
Okay. Well, I'll back up just one second. I grew up in New York. I grew up in suburban New York, Glen Cove, Long Island.
Long Island.
And, when I was 18, I went to college, and that college was in northern Maine, Ricker College. And I fell in love not only with the college that I was going to, but also the setting, which was wilderness, agricultural, and a small community. This was probably a town of about 7,000. It was a county seat, and the farming commodity were potatoes. So when I started meditation in college in 1974 and kept that practice through the rest of the decade, and then when the domes were built in Fairfield, I was intrigued. So I came out here at that point in time and stayed.
Nice.
And raised my family here. I have 2 children that were born and raised in Fairfield. Helped begin a business and worked in that business over the last 29 years.
Wow. Got
involved in community politics in 1991 as a city councilman for 8 years, and then ran for mayor in 2001. So that's kind of where what had happened. But that place that I lived in Maine was so much like Fairfield that it was a very easy transition for me personally to be here. I really got what small communities were about before I arrived, so no cultural shock.
You got your training.
Right.
But also, you decided to go into politics, city council, mayor. What was that thought? Was there an aha one day? It's like, oh, what I'm gonna make a difference in local government. I mean, how did that happen?
It wasn't premeditated. It was a friend of mine that had suggested it at one time, and I had involved had been involved in some level of leadership on the campus of the university. And I think because of that, it was suggested that, that I do something at the level of city government. And I really didn't really know much about it, didn't know, what that would entail or what to expect. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I think the decision was that, at the time I had lived in Fairfield about 10 years, and, being from the outside, I just thought, what better way to prove the merits of someone from the outside than to be involved on the inside?
Nice.
And that was pretty much my impetus at the time. And I learned a lot in those first 8 years. I learned a lot about the community, I learned a lot about the people of Fairfield, a lot about its traditions, and grew to respect and embrace them more and more, so that when I decided that I would try to take that leadership role at mayor, I was glad that I had the appreciation and the background that I did, because this is a wonderful community at every level.
Yeah. I have to throw out there, you have been credited with being one of the forces, one of the reasons why, one of the unifiers of this community, of all the word, it isn't the right word, disparate, but all the different type of personalities and all the different community, culturally different people there are here. I don't want to put you on the spot by asking you, do you feel like you've been a part of that or anything like that, but I want to ask you more like, how do you feel about the growth that's happened, maybe not as a result of your participating? I wanted to throw that out there because I feel that I wanted you to know that people do say that about you.
Right.
But what do you feel like as far as the growth, when you look at Fairfield then, Fairfield now, what would you say is some of the biggest growth that's happened?
Okay. Well, I would just start by saying that for me personally, one of the things that I think really kind of fuels my passions is interacting with people. And interacting with people for a purpose is something that really, really gets me going. So, and I've always known that about myself, and I just like being part of a team. And if I have those leadership elements within my personality, it's just that I respect everybody's part of a team.
Yeah.
I defer to, I prefer to defer to other team members, for their ideas. But if I can help interpret and say the things that will unify people that are working together, or guide in some way, or take responsibility in some way that will bring people together and guide in that way, that's my preference. That's what I enjoy doing.
I appreciate that you answered like that, because I know the temptation is to sort of like fluff over that element, but you did participate, and you were an element of what we are today, I believe. And go on, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No. That's fine. So from a personal standpoint, that's my perspective on it. From a community standpoint, as I say, the realization that I had when I sort of decided that I would try to take that responsibility as a mayor for that type of leadership was that I already recognized that it was there within the community.
Nice. And
it just had to be organized. So I didn't feel like I had a difficult job ahead of me. Again, because there's an innate goodness and creativity and passion in everyone, and if you invite that out of people, and they will commit and respond, this is the byproduct of what we see in Fairfield. That's why so many things have changed.
Right.
And I think that, going back to the other part of your question about how things have changed from maybe back a couple of decades, is that I think there was still a little bit of a dance going on, people feeling each other out, and there wasn't as much of that willingness or openness to work with people in that way. I think it was always there. I know it was always there under the surface, but I think that the role that I played was coaxing it out.
Nice. I have to throw this out there. You mentioned it earlier off camera, so I have to throw it out there. You have a Bruce Springsteen story, and you can't get away without telling us that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people heard this one. Anyway, in college, one of the leadership roles that I took early on was I was a student activities director. And in 1973, I was going to a small college in northern Maine, Ricker College, and I was producing my second to last concert. We had a pretty small activities budget. So I had booked a man who at the time was quite popular on our campus because of a campus radio station that we had at the time. It's Leo Kotke, 12-string guitar player, great voice, instrumentalist, very popular. Booked him as an opening, as a headliner. I was working with an agent and I said, look, I need an opening act and I've only got $500 to spend. Who do you got? So this is an agent out of New York. And he said, well, there's this guy, Bruce Springsteen, who's kind of an up-and-comer. He's really, got a great stage show, and at the time they would give away albums if you were interested. So I said, well, send me his latest album. So they sent Greetings from Asbury Park, which really commercially had done nothing. Right. And at the time I thought, well, I listened to it and I thought, who is this guy really? I mean, the way it was produced, lyrically it was fascinating, the saxophone in there and all of those different elements.
And it was that first album was downplayed.
It was really downplayed. Yeah. The second album, the production of it was completely different. All of a sudden, you understood who he was.
It was a West Side Story.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So anyway, I thought, fine. Let's bring him in as the opening act. Leo Kotke contacted us about 3 weeks before the show and said he was in Europe and he was going to stay there. He was canceling some shows, so I had to scramble. Get another band, booked a band called Orleans that later on made it in the 70s. So we had Bruce Springsteen in Orleans. I had friends, good friends, that were so mad at me that we had 2 unknown artists for our fall concert that they left the campus in protest for the weekend. And they've regretted it to this day.
Oh my God.
But Bruce Springsteen drove 550 miles from New Jersey to northern Maine
and the band
put on a heck of a show. And I put my foot in my mouth the minute I met him. I was pointed out as he entered our gymnasium that we were involved in setting up, and I was working and directing people to do different things. And this guy walks up and he says, "Hey, where's the Springsteen band set up for the sound check?" So I said, "Are you the road manager?" And he said, "No, man, I'm Bruce." So anyway, that was.
He did have the kind of roadie look.
He did.
Greasy a little,
yeah.
There are fun stories like that all over the place. But about how I would like you to. Can you share the part about what he said about Orleans?
Okay. So the next time I see Bruce is I'm in the wings of the stage. Orleans is playing to a very happy crowd. They were a real bluesy, gifted band, and Springsteen walks up from a dressing room below, and he's got his guitar strung around his back, and it's noisy right there. But he comes and he stands next to me, looks over, makes eye contact, and says, "Great band." So I said, "Yeah," and I'm thinking, I guess, he thinks he's as good as them or something like that. And then he looks and he goes, "We're gonna blow them away."
Of course, that's what I wanted you to say that, because that's the reputation this guy had. He was a take no prisoners performer.
Yeah.
I mean, the energy that he has on stage was about the amount of energy that he had promoting himself off stage.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And little known fact, if it weren't, you're gonna. Some viewers may not like this or appreciate this, especially the older viewers who don't think they were very hip. But if it were the Partridge Family, there wouldn't have been Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, that story I don't know.
Yeah, no, Partridge Family. Mike Appel and Jim Credicos wrote "Doesn't Somebody Want to Be Wanted" and a couple of other hits for David Cassidy for the Partridge Family, and that money went into the initial demos that they spent, Mike Appel and Jim Credicos, on Bruce.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, that's anyway. I also wanted to throw out there Orleans. I mean, you saw John Hall, who of course was an amazing guitarist, but also and he backed up Bonnie Raitt and Orleans. Right. You had the foresight. Taj Mahal. You had the foresight of booking him. Booking Orleans before they had hits. That was first album, I think MCA or something like that. I think it was MCA, and it was like 4 years later that they started having hits. Dance with Me.
It probably was. It was late '70s when they had Dance with Me and You're Still the One, and a number of others. But what was fun about that was that I didn't scrambling for this second band. I literally, said, "Who do you have that's available within a 2-week period, 2-week notice that will play for this amount of money?"
Yeah.
And he started listing off these bands, and it was difficult. There weren't all that many of them, and I didn't recognize any of those names. But I said, "Tell me personnel," because I, follow music. And then when he stopped in Orleans and said John Hall, I knew him from his work with Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal.
I had seen Taj Mahal, and I remembered seeing him. Then when I remember personally going to the airport and picking them up, getting off the plane, and when they walked off the plane and I saw these four men, I went, oh, I can't believe this, because at a spring festival in upstate New York the year before, I had seen them play. I didn't know who they were, but they were the best band that I had seen that day. And I thought, oh good, we're safe. We've got a great concert.
Nice.
Because my crowd's going to like this band.
Nice. Yeah, it had the brothers in the bit, Larry and, what's it, Hoppin', whatever. Anyway, and John Hall, before we leave that subject, John Hall now is what, a state senator in New York?
No longer. He was a state senator in New York.
Yeah.
He's retired, but he served a couple of terms in New York, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the question of your music. Musical back. Actually, we talked about this off camera too, but you have a show on solar-powered Crew FM. You want to...
Actually, I don't have a show. And
Okay.
I just haven't had the time to do it. That's probably my brother Ken. Ken does a show on Monday evenings.
Do you come on every once in a while?
Every once in a while I've been on Ken's show, but I try to do the monthly show with Melinda Arndt, the Around Town show,
So that's
which is city news more than anything else. But I haven't done anything musical. You know, on my college campus, there was a student from New York who had been busted by the FCC for setting up a pirate radio early in his career.
Wow, that's very ahead of its time. That's great.
He set one up in 1971 on our campus and was busted by the FCC. But the administration at the time said, you know, there seems to be a lot of interest here. They put some money behind starting a campus radio station, and I DJ'd for about 3.5 years.
You did, nice.
So that was a great experience.
And also Mike Halley, of course, who we had on here.
Yeah.
I have to keep saying that over and over to impress the audience on who we've had on here. I think we have the mayor, By the way, anybody who's tuned in and who doesn't know this fine gentleman over here, Mayor Ed Malloy. Thank you again for coming
Mike.
here. I want to... There are a couple of other things we should get back to. We should get back to Fairfield, since the show is about is Fairfield, introducing Fairfield to Fairfield and the world. What are some issues that are personal? Maybe this puts you on the spot, and I don't mean to, but and you can avoid the question. But are there any personal things that you would like to see kicked into gear that are sort of in the infancy right now?
Well, you know, I probably should have mentioned a little bit earlier, but let me take the time right now. One of the big initiatives that we're heading into this fall is we're going to pursue building a new gymnasium as part of the recreation center, and also an outdoor pool. Now, we have an outdoor pool that's 45 years old and has outlived its usability.
Yeah.
We had to close it down this year, which was a difficult thing to do. So we went very quickly into a planning mode to replace the pool. But some very good people who are part of a facilities task force that I appointed came back with the recommendation not just to build an outdoor pool, but to build something that we've talked about as a community for decades, and that is to have a recreational center, gymnasium, track, those types of things. Right now, all of that is done on school property, and it has taxed those facilities greatly over the years.
And also Roosevelt, it's Roosevelt and MUN basically. Those are the two.
But not a gymnasium. We don't have a gymnasium at the rec center. The university's been very good. The middle school and the high school have provided facilities, but they just don't have enough.
Right.
So this is something that's very, very important to the community. So they propose that we try to do both projects at once. So the council just last night approved allowing voters to approve a $3 million bond towards those two projects on the November ballot.
Huh.
The two projects will probably total somewhere in the $9.5 to $10.5 million. So there's going to be a fairly sizable private component to this.
All right.
But those two projects are something that we're going to endeavor to pass.
And the thing with that is also, this is for the community. The community uses those,
Right.
And especially if we get the blue zone designation.
Absolutely.
This is where we're headed, and this is the natural evolution of the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we've been fortunate to have the facilities that we've had thus far. And you know, as a city continues, there are certain times where you have to stop and replace or renew the facilities that you have for the next coming generations, and that's the position that we're taking at this time. It is the time to do it.
Nice.
You know, we are asking for the voters to approve the $3 million bond issue. As part of that, the matching money that will come in the private is going to be raised by citizens from within the community.
Nice.
And there, you know, right now there's been good support for both projects, so we think that there's going to be some success in that.
Yeah.
These are both also very important facilities for the younger people within our community as well. And keeping those things refreshed and vital are very, very important. And I think that's one of the things that I always have in the back of my mind when we do projects in Fairfield. How is it going to have an impact or an influence on the thinking or the decisions that young people are going to make about their community?
Future generations.
Yes.
You know what I have to say? I'm throwing this out there as my 2 cents, but the kids in town, I think they're incredible, but I feel like, maybe because I'm conscious of this, maybe this isn't a reality, but I feel like the youth, the kids in this town, with the exception of a few maybe artistic kids who need to leave in order to express themselves in a different kind of way and have big success or whatever, they're staying. It's an amazing thing to see, because most small towns, the kids are, they're out. But it seems like we have an older population, and then we have kind of maybe a skip for a few years. But the kids, the young, and I'm saying kids, I mean maybe from the 20s and 30s.
Somethings.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see they love their town.
I see that too, and that's really been a lot of our intention as well, is to show that, to demonstrate that to the people of those ages, that Fairfield is serious about keeping up and progressing and doing those kinds of things. The economy is a big part of it, and the livability is another part of it.
Right.
Iowa actually has the second oldest population in the nation, next to Florida. Now, if people go to Florida to retire, Iowa is not necessarily the case. So in some respects, we could have the oldest median population in the country.
Yeah.
So we're challenged there. Every community in Iowa is challenged there. Young people are gravitating to the urban areas in Iowa, but I think the small communities have a real opportunity as well. I think when people see our community and they see how many of the different cosmopolitan elements that they can discover and participate in here, they'll make a decision to stay.
Yeah, and also because of the internet, because we have access. I think it's finally gotten into the young psyche that we have Des Moines, we have Iowa City, we have all these towns, Cedar Rapids, however you want to throw that, Coralville. We have Burlington. We have all of these areas where a lot of the young people have outreach to there and have expanded their sphere of influence even into these other communities based on, okay, I live in a small town, what can I do about that?
Right.
And that's something I'm not used to, even the concept of that.
Yeah. That's really their generational expertise.
Yeah.
And that's something we don't have to be concerned about. They are going to reach out, and they're going to find, collaborations wherever they are.
And live here.
They're going to live here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want that to be successful, and anything that we can do to assist in that, we will. But I think the main thing is to stay cool.
Nice, exactly. Which we would do in this pool if this when this gets going. Can I ask you, just for a history lesson, a little bit? I know this is going to be slightly touchy, just a little bit touchy.
It's okay.
The Sondheim. Where are we at as far as the Sondheim? Because I know we're supporting that a little bit too, right?
Right.
Or have supported it.
Well, I think, a couple of years ago we got over a very big hurdle, and that was rescuing it financially from the debt that it was under.
Yeah.
With that past us, though, I think that the operations of the Sondheim Center have been outstanding, and I think that's the sentiment of most people. They see that the artist series that is put on each year, 60% of the shows are sold out. I think they have an average attendance of about 420 people in a 525-seat auditorium.
Yeah.
And I think that is always growing. Some of these things are a hard ticket to get. I think that the convention side of it, that in the original business plan had called for more of a stronger revenue stream, has been lagging a bit, but it has been picking up as well. And I know that they're strategic plan for this year is to really go after that business and to really pull that together.
Is that by having people from out of town come in and use that part, or utilizing and advertising and pushing our town?
Yeah, I just think that for people seeing it as an event space that they would be interested in using. And we've had some challenges there. We always envisioned that it would be some sort of a conference center. We could draw statewide conferences here. Well, our challenge has been we don't have enough hotel rooms. So we've opened a new hotel.
That's right.
And now that should definitely help. But there are more weddings there. There are always different types of trade shows and things. There can be more of those things. Dance. There's lots of things lots of ways that it can be used. So I think that's going to be it. So one of the things that was always a part of the business model for the center, though, as well, was to be supported by an annual fund. So donations are always a part of that.
Right.
And that's something that's always a challenge for a volunteer board to get.
Yeah.
But that organization has had as many when the building was being built, they had 1,100 businesses, individuals, or families that had made contributions to the project at the time.
To the initial project.
Right. Right now, there are probably about 175 to 200 that support it regularly on an annual basis. I know their work is going to be to try and get that number to 400 or 500, and then I think it'll be easily sustainable with its annual fund and with its revenues that they've proven can support it right now. So it really is in a good position. As touchy, as you say, or controversial as some of those points were at a time, I still believe that most people will recognize that it's been a good value to our community.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And in fact, I mean, it's elevated the concept of putting on musicals and plays, etc. I mean, that's a beautiful facility to be able to do. WOB is out of there. Right. You've got Donna having her, and King Lear having their productions out of there. Plus the music, Rustin has done an amazing job pulling in a lot of musical acts.
Yes.
And when they're even, what's funny is, like, even though they're, some of them may not be like the world's most famous acts. It doesn't matter. These are entertaining acts.
Right.
Everything that's getting in there.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Absolutely. We really, really deeply appreciate his leadership over there and his expertise.
Yeah.
The other thing is we look at, as I mentioned earlier, that part of our economic development strategy was to create a tourism-based business. Well, when those people who are coming for our artist series from out of town are coming here for a meal or spending the night, art walk, if people are coming here for an art walk, or if they've heard about our community, they've heard something about it, they'll come for a weekend. That is very much a part of what is contributing to our revenue within the community.
Right.
A few years ago, when we did the analysis on our sales tax, we saw that from 2003 to 2009, we experienced a 40% growth in our sales tax at that time because of those additional elements that we brought in. Now, as that continues to grow, 2008, that sort of slowed down a little bit with the economy. I think as things begin to pick up again, we will start to see those numbers go up. We're hoping we can get to $1 million annually in sales tax revenues that are coming back to the city. There's more than $1 million in sales tax.
And that's, of course, without raising the sales tax.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's just based on the formula that's there right now.
Nice.
So I think it's, I think in the end, the net effect for the Arts and Convention Center has been very, very positive.
Right. And of course, the acts themselves that come through here, they want to come back. They talk to their friends, the word of mouth about Fairfield. And that's the other thing about Fairfield, which is interesting, is that the artistic community, it's a given. At this point, it's a given. The artistic community, the music community, sustainable living community, I guess you'd say, as far as the people that are promoting it and sustaining it.
Right.
These are you don't find this kind of synergy anywhere else. For instance, let's go to the artistic community. Wouldn't it be true to say that there isn't a week that'll go by where you can't go to some major production, whether it be Cafe P, whether it be the Sondheim, whether it be even the beauty shop with the kids? I mean, you've got entertainment galore in this town.
Yeah, I'm actually very.
I've never seen.
I'm actually very
that.
frustrated by living here
Yeah,
because I miss more than I get
like,
to.
which one will I go to?
And having been to Cafe Paradiso this past week on Thursday and Saturday night, and really wanted to be there Sunday night, but just couldn't get there. I hated missing.
Bill. But you saw Ali Sperry.
I did.
Ali Sperry was playing against King Lear. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff.
The other good footnote about an Ali Sperry is that she was raised in Fairfield, and she was really kind of nurtured by a generation of musicians ahead of her within the town that gave her kind of the confidence to discover her own musical talents and to take them to Nashville. And now she's coming back here with a Nashville band and just knocking people's socks off. And there's so many others in that category, Adrian Dowler and others that just we're very proud of them, and I think they feel really good about their hometown and the music scene in their hometown, and I think that's going to continue for generations to come.
I think so too, and you have people who are investing in a different kind of way than what we're used to, because Ali and Adrian, maybe not so much Adrian as far as a traditional method of going into entertainment, but we have the Rabelais.
Right.
We have the Rabelais who basically. I mean, I don't know any harder working.
Right.
They're inventing processes. I mean, I'm looking at this, and I'm really proud. I'm seriously proud of these kids, and also what I'm curious and what this is going to end up looking like. For instance, Dominic played in New York recently. He played at a museum, and I was trying to get people to come see him from labels, and it was a little frustrating for them because it was in a museum and they didn't quite get what the deal was. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
This kid isn't going to need contacts. What's they're going to happen? They're going to be inventing the process themselves.
Right.
And it's really fun to watch this and to see this growing. I truly believe in a lot of and a lot of the acts that are associated. Surgery is another one. Adrian, and Phil Rabelais overseeing stuff. Owen Blake. We've got an amazing up in the let's call it up and comers. Maybe they don't want to hear it like that, but they are up and comers, and I feel like they're just amazing. We're very blessed with having that kind of creativity where we're going to be reinventing things. They're going to be reinventing things. Well, a lot of pride there.
Film and digital media is another area.
That's right too. That's right.
Yeah.
And we have
another feature film that's going to be unveiled in the next 3 weeks.
Is that right?
Yes. You haven't heard much about this?
Not really. No.
Okay.
You can't say anything yet, right?
Well, it's actually I have a part in it.
You do.
I do.
Mayor Ed Malloy. Mayor Ed, you go by Mayor Ed Malloy when
this came out of a digital media class at the university last spring during their semester. One of their associate professors, Cullen Thomas, who is a graduate of MUM and is also a screenwriter and director, had a film that he wanted to produce, so he produced it with his class, and they had a part for the President of the United States. And I got talked into playing this part. It's a small part, but it was a lot of fun. Never been involved in a film before, and they'll be unveiling it sometime in the next 3 weeks.
See, and as we'll be unveiling your presidential run in 2016.
No, I think it's just in the movies.
Can I ask you that? Can I ask you a quick question? You're thinking maybe of running again as mayor at some point in the future?
It's a 2-year election cycle, and there was an election in 2011. There'll be an election in 2013, and I really will decide from year to year. I'm not sure. I want to have an inspiration each time I make a decision to run, and if that inspiration continues, I will. But if not, I would also love to see new leadership rise within the community as well.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And what about taking what you've learned here and taking all of the great projects you have knowledge of, et cetera, and taking it to the next level in this state?
It's one of those things that if you're in political life at any level, the expectation is, well, what are you going to do next, or what are you going to pursue next? And I follow state politics, and I've been involved at the state level on different commissions, and I enjoy it. And there is a possibility that may be a desire at some point, but no firm plans.
No firm plans. Do the mayors ever get? How does that work? Do the mayors get together, have a little meeting once in a while?
They really don't. There is a state league of elected officials, and that's probably the closest thing. But that includes council members and mayors. The Iowa League of Cities is what it's referred to, and they have an annual conference, and there are regional meetings, so from time to time. But I've had interaction with mayors around the state of Iowa over different projects, things like that, but it isn't necessarily something that is well organized.
Is there synergy between? Is there collaboration and synergy between the towns?
Well, you know, in the area of sustainability, for instance, there are about 5 cities around Iowa, including Fairfield, that have those principles and objectives. And you know, I've had some dialogue with some of the mayors, and we talk about different projects that are going on in each community. The other area I think that would be naturally conducive would be economic development, a regional economic development concept. And I've had conversations over the years with the mayor of Ottumwa and the mayors of Mount Pleasant, and you know, there hasn't really been any collaborations to speak of that have, you know, generated anything. But I think we all like to compare notes and talk about what we're doing in each other's communities, and I think that's of value.
Can you see that in the future? Can you see there maybe out of necessity at some point? I don't know, but
you know, regionalism. Yeah, I mean that's one way to make government smaller. And that's always on the table. Which everybody likes, right? Yeah, which everybody likes. You know, Iowa has 99 counties and 99 seats of government, and there's always talk about, you know, maybe combining some counties. The school, the one area where that has happened are in school districts, so it could potentially follow that model. I don't see it right now. People like the way the governments are set up at this point in time, so I don't see a big move in that direction. It certainly could happen in the future, 20, 30, 40 years from now, but I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Do you see 20, 30, 40 years from now?
Yeah.
I wish, one of the things for Fairfield that I wish could happen is that we have such a great story. And you know, I do contribute to the Huffington Post, but it's very hard to be throwing out stories about Fairfield all the time. I try my best, but it's like I can't, you know, they'll throw me out. It's like,
right.
You know, it's like, okay, stop, you know, your personal, you know, crusade there. But,
yeah, right.
But I'm wondering, is it just like sort of like New York State has those, or these states have their tourism commercials, or their, you know, come to Florida because blah blah blah. Do we have any kind of
Fairfield?
Yeah, well, Fairfield, maybe Iowa, but Fairfield, maybe in particular, are we thinking?
I think Iowa has had those campaigns in the past, and they're playing them in other states probably. So we don't really see them. We wouldn't really see them. But I think I've seen some television commercials about vacationing in Iowa, and I think the statistics actually support that Iowans do vacation in their home state, so those dollars are worth spending. But Fairfield, you know, we really don't have marketing budgets. I really wish we did. I mean, I wish we had a big marketing budget for our Convention and Visitors Bureau, yes, and for the Sondheim and for some of the great elements within our community, but we just don't.
Might that be private contributions to something like that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely, that's always welcome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this might fall under the category of what personal projects would you like to see happen? What is your immediate future? What are you looking at as far as coming down the pike?
You know, one of the things
legislation or whatever.
One of the things that I really want to see done is work on the buildings in our downtown square, and I don't think that I think some of the facades on our buildings have become dated, and or that maybe they're past dated, they're past their due date.
Where it's kind of not cute anymore. You know, I got you, yeah.
And not to be offensive, and you know, it's economics, because you know, there's a lot to maintain there. But I think that, and so I want to pursue that. I want to pursue a program where we restore the facades in our downtown. I think that also sends a very dramatic signal to people that we are, you know, a community that really takes great pride. We started that process 7 years ago with our streetscape project, and I'm very happy with the way that has turned out. We get a lot of compliments from people who've lived in Fairfield in the past and return. They've never seen it before. They really love that. Other people always appreciate it when they come for our art walk or downtown festivals. Yeah. But we do get comments that you know, the square looks dated, or it doesn't look unified in some way, and that's something that I want to see us get done. The good news is that I've spoken with many of the property owners, probably 80 to 85% of them, and they all agree and they all want to go this direction. So we're going to be pursuing a grant opportunity for about $500,000
oh, nice,
as a matching towards some of this work, and hopefully next year sometime we would be able to get going and undertake that.
Beautiful. And you know, we have other initiatives. We have interesting things like, over the past couple of years, I remember, what was it, Scott Morris and Tony Camaro were associated with the Hometown Heroes.
Yes.
I think we have things like that.
We do. You know, and I think that's been one of the strengths of our community. It was also part of our strategic vision back in 2003 when we did our plan, was to have a coordinated, organized volunteer component to our community, because there were always many, many people who volunteered, but how is it that you structure it so that everyone can have the opportunity to participate in some way, contribute any time that they can? So the volunteer center and the coordinated elements, the efforts that they have brought, and I mentioned Hometown Rewards because they were connecting a couple of things: good progress within the community and volunteerism, and rewarding that. So I think that that's been a very strong component, and I think it's really healthy for the community.
And it did, and the interaction, I mean, you not only got, you know, a free coffee once in a while over at Cafe P, but you also got a lot of, there was development.
Yeah.
There were people who
There were
were suddenly
connections that were made, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember some of the projects. I remember Scott out there with bags, you know, doing the volunteerism on Saturday mornings where they're cleaning the square and stuff.
Right.
By the way, speaking of our square, I know as far as the refurbishing concept we had earlier, I have to say I've been to a couple of the towns. I won't mention their names, but I really feel like Fairfield has a beautiful square as far as the actual, you know, the green.
The Central Park is beautiful.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Yeah, it really does. And again, the surrounding gardens are beautiful, and we have diverse shopping and dining in the downtown. Couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, except a good.
Just
I won't say that. We needed a
good Italian restaurant.
You know where I was going. Ragogna.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there are some businesses. It seems like if they gave it a shot, a diner, like one of those kind of all-night diners. I was kind of hoping.
The diner didn't make it.
Yeah, I heard.
It really depends.
But you know, there are so many things that people. Bluefish is a great example of this. It's like all of a sudden there's bluefish, and that's thriving. That's a really cool adventure. I think for the owners, and also for the owner, and also for the people who are working there.
Well, you know, the nice thing about Bluefish too is that they brought an established business to our square.
Yeah.
And they have both manufacturing that's being done there and retail. So we know the retail will be able to sustain because the manufacturing is connected to it, and a lot of their goods are sold outside of Fairfield. And also, you know, the Leahy family, who are the owners of Overland Sheepskin, have, you know, been very strong community partners, and we know that they'll take care of that building in the downtown too. So you not only get a business, but you get a very strong partner in your downtown, and that's always encouraging.
Right, and then we have businesses like everybody's. Talk about community minded.
Yeah.
You've got everybody's. You've got Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee it's interesting how they've truly integrated into the community. You can't have an event, whether it be Art Walk or whatever, without them there participating in some way. We had the Sondheim appreciation show they had the other day.
You know, Mike, when you look at the Western corridor, okay, and a lot of people don't like those because it's sprawl of some sort, but it's been going on for a long period of time. Our downtown is healthy. You know, we survived the first Walmart that we received, you know, over 20 years ago, and the community has thrived, and Walmart is appreciated for what it brings to the community and its expansion. But you look at McDonald's and Come and Go, and that was a LEED Silver building as well. You look at the Goodwill building and the Pizza Hut and the Gold LEED certified Hy-Vee. These businesses are making significant commitments to our community long term by making decisions to do that.
Right.
And it's appreciated, obviously, from our side, but I think it's a vote of confidence from their side as well.
Yeah, and it is interesting because it does feel like the community is constantly renewing itself by their renewing their buildings, in the very least. I mean, and the giant Walmart that we have. It is interesting because some of the same employees are there, so it's almost like you go there and it's like, same Walmart.
Well, of course, but there were over 60 or 70 new jobs that came out of those.
There you go. That's where I was going with this. Is that? But you see, amazing amount of new faces
as well.
And with Hy-Vee as well.
Yeah.
And Hy-Vee, to be honest, I mean, to their credit, Hy-Vee also has the club room on the side where they have
it's a great community
food
event.
shows and the kids shows. They now have kids cooking shows there, not shows, but events. Anyway, We probably should be wrapping this up at this point. I had a lot of time with you, and I really do appreciate it, Ed. But
thanks, Mike.
What advice? I had asked what advice you have for new artists with the musicians, but what advice shall you give for people who are wanting to contribute to their community, who don't know how to really do it, who know how to dive in?
A lot of times I'm asked to give an overview of the community, and I just did that on Sunday night to a group of people who are here from all over the country who have steam-driven cars. And they're tangentially connected to the old Threshers reunion that takes place in Mount Pleasant this upcoming weekend. But they chose Fairfield to stay here because they wanted to see this community, and they're going to be doing a lot of day trips. But when I speak to a group like this, the way I describe Fairfield is that I refer to it as a city of 1,000 passions, and that there are so many people who have passions that they want to express and they want to see as part of their community. They want to share, or they want to invite others to share with them. And the people who are successful in making that happen, the people who renovated the Mazda barns and developed a welcome center and a museum out there that we never had before, the people who dedicated 14 years of their lives to develop a 16-mile loop trail, the people who've dedicated the last 10 years to Art Walk, and those are just some of the bigger things, and on and on and on. That's the magic of Fairfield. That's how it works. So if you're one of those people who has a passion that you will take ownership of and that you will share with others, you're welcome to do that in our community, and encouraged.
Nice. I don't know how you top that. Ed, really, I appreciate it. Mayor Ed Malloy.
Thank you for doing your show with your great gifts of interviewing and what you do on the radio and how you connect us to the outside world. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for saying that. Gotta love Fairfield. All right, so that was another exciting episode, a really exciting episode of Fairfield 2.0 with Mayor Ed Malloy. Tune in again, because again, this show is about you, Fairfield. You need to be on this show, so please contact us at Jason Strong, still our director, still our cameraman. We'll be flashing information at the bottom of the screen, I guess, wherever, on how you can contact us if you want to be both on the show or maybe have your own show. At Fairfield's Media Center. Again, thank you, and
you're welcome. Thanks, Mike.
All the best for the future.
Thank you.
One more time.
Okay, great.